I was watching Utah and BYU, the Holy War, with BYU winning once again. RG3 was on the call. Out of Pocket with RG3. Also, check out his podcast, RG3 joining us. I felt for you guys because you had this atmosphere. You were trying to capture the atmosphere, the sound, the backdrop, everything. I mean, did you feel that? Like, we couldn't understand the crowd noise. You kept talking about this noise, but the atmosphere was unbelievable.
Yeah, Dan, it's the best rivalry in all of college sports, and I was honored to be a part of it with play-by-play Jason Benetti and our sideline reporter Alexa Lannistoy. A state of Utah that is basically a band of brothers wearing red and wearing blue, and then one day out of the year, for the last century, they go to war. It's a rivalry that splits families, husbands and wives, children, cousins, and then, on Sunday they go to church and they're all back singing the same song. So it was really cool to be a part of that. Kalani Sitake, the head coach for BYU, the loving Samoan, and then you got Utah with Kyle Whittingham. It was an interesting dynamic that was fun to be able to capture.
The worst loss of the weekend, NFL or college, was turned in by who?
Oh, my. Yeah, I mean, that's easy, Dan. That's the New York Giants. I really feel for New York sports fans right now. It's not pretty. Yankees get booted from the postseason. You got the Jets at 0-7. They don't even really have a quarterback right now. And then the Giants give up 33 points in the fourth quarter and find a way to snatch defeat out of the jaws of victory.
But the Giants feel hopeful from the standpoint of they did compete. They've got some players. So my takeaway is, yes, that one hurts, but it could be helping you build something here in the near future.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at draft picks, of course, you don't want to have the greatest season of all time, so you can build some more pieces around Jackson Dart, but you got to be careful because, you saw, was it Brian Banks walking to the locker room, talking about just the frustration of what's going on. Those guys in that locker room have pride, and they want to win games this year. The guys aren't looking forward to the next couple of years like maybe some people in the front office might be, if they're even there. But to your point, the positivity from having Jackson Dart play so well and having Cam Scatterbo, bring that type of energy is good. But I think they're going through a process of learning how to win. You see this a lot of times when changes are made at the quarterback spot. The team is just so used to losing that they find way to lose games that they 100% should win. Dart is a game changer. I knew that when he was at Ole Miss, throwing the football around. But for the Giants, you just can't allow Bo Nix to become Bo Jackson in the fourth quarter.
Okay. Did you play on a team where you felt like defeat was inevitable in the NFL?
Ooh, that is a great question. I was a part of the team in Cleveland that went 1-15. So that year was weird because that was probably one of the closest teams I'd ever been on as far as the camaraderie in the locker room.
Really?
But we would find ways to lose games. And there was another team that I was on in Washington in 2015 when I didn't play a snap. And that team might have been the most divided team I've ever been on. And we won the division championship.
But how do you get divided? What happens?
It's kind of like the Eagles right now, right? They come off a victory, but you can hear AJ Brown after he catches a touchdown, and he's like saying to the camera, "Throw me the ball." Like, they're winning games, but guys are not necessarily maybe not getting their numbers. They're not feeling like they're getting used the right way. And on that 2015 team, I believe we had Deshaun Jackson, Pierre Garçon, Kirk Cousins was a starting quarterback that year. And for whatever reason, there was just dissension in the locker room. And the talent overcame the dissension, and we were able to win the championship. Whereas in Cleveland, we were close-knit, tight, but we just weren't able. Maybe we were too young. We had like 5 rookie wide receivers, and we got rid of a lot of our veterans. And it's why it's so difficult to win in the NFL, because they're trying to figure out how to make quarterbacks successful. They're trying to figure out how to make the team successful, and they don't have a perfect recipe for it. But I think it all boils down to identity. That team in Cleveland in 2016 didn't have an identity. That team in Washington in 2015 had an identity. It was just dysfunction, and everyone bought in. everyone bought into the dysfunction, and we found ways to win games. So there's no recipe for it, but I think if you have an identity, that is the start. And the Giants are building that identity, and they need to lean into Cam Scatterbo and Jackson Dart 100%.
Bill Cowher said that it looked like the Dolphins players were disinterested.
Ooh.
Now, that's not saying you quit,
No?
but it's close.
Yeah, it's close.
Maybe it's
close.
semantics. It's a friendlier word. What does disinterested mean to you as a former player?
It means that the Miami Dolphins need to blow it all up. Dan, they have to fire Mike McDaniel, and I do also believe they have to get rid of Tua Tagovailoa. And I'm a Tua guy. You asked me. This is many shows ago. Who would I take? Would I take Tua Tagovailoa or Justin Herbert? And I'd pick Tua because his ability to play before the defense and get the ball out in timing and rhythm and his aggressiveness. But he's thrown 10 interceptions this year, and he's thrown 3 interceptions in back-to-back games. And I do believe Tua himself has lost that locker room. We saw it last week when he came out and called out, the leadership in the building. That wasn't just players. That was leadership holistically in the entire building. And once it starts to creep out like that for a guy like Tua, who's always been very cognizant of what he says to the public, that to me means that it's going a lot worse than what we're even seeing. And now it's affecting his play to a level of, like Coach Cowher said, they're disinterested. They don't want to play. Mike McDaniel does not look like he's having fun, right, on the sidelines.
Yeah.
He's not skipping and jumping and wearing the cool glasses anymore. He's got like a hoodie on, like he's trying to hide from somebody. So I don't know what is particularly going on there, but I know they owe Tua 141 million still. But sometimes you just got to reshuffle the deck and just start all over.
Talking to RG3, Fox football analyst. He was on the call for BYU in Utah, and you can check out his podcast, Out of Pocket, with RG3. He had these comments, and I know there's pressure when you're a quarterback of you got to be a leader.
Yeah.
Well, some lead by example. Some lead by words. Some do a combination. It's almost like that Tua was trying to be something he wasn't last week. I'm going to be a leader. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to say these things. I'm calling, people. But then you go out and you throw 3 interceptions.
Correct.
And then you throw 3 interceptions again. Do you think he's trying to be somebody he's not? And that is this vocal guy? Because it feels like when he gets in front of a microphone, the microphone always wins. He doesn't.
That's a good, I got to pull on my own experience here because, when you're losing, it is really difficult to be that vocal leader in front of that microphone and try to hold everybody in the organization accountable. I went through that. You come off a loss and you say, hey, it all starts with me.
Yeah.
I've got to be better and I've got to do this. And then it's like what you say next after that determines how the rest of your week and the rest of your season is going to go. And I made that mistake. So I understand where Tua is at because I said that. And then I came back and I said, you know what, the best do this and we got to do that. And and your teammates, it's like they're looking at you and they're watching it on TV. Their friends are texting them and their families texting them what's going on. And they skip the first part. Okay. Skip that you said on me and they go right to, hey man, he said you ain't catching the ball. He said y'all not getting open. And I know that feeling. So I always feel for the quarterbacks in those moments because you want to motivate your guys.
No, but
right?
you want to be boring, RG.
No,
you got to be boring in the press conference. In the locker room, you can be animated, excited. Yep. You can do all of that. Yep. In front of us, your job is to say something, but not really say anything.
And Dan, I learned that. I learned that. I just didn't have the $141 million contract Google has now. And I think a little bit of that comes with when you get that payment, you feel more of a responsibility to be the catalyst for that leadership. And I think that's where Tua is. He's learning on the job, the mistakes that a lot of guys make early in their career, right in the middle of his career. So I think he needs to watch this episode of the Dan Patrick Show and Be boring. It's okay to say, hey, it's on me. I got to go watch the tape. Be Jalen Hurts. They ask Jalen Hurts all the
Yeah.
time, hey, what differently this week that you didn't do last week? He's like, I don't know. I got to go watch the tape. Be boring. I'm telling you, it works every single time. And your teammates will love you for it because they're all under a microscope in this social media age. And I think Tua is learning that really quickly.
We're also learning quickly about it doesn't feel like anybody has great stability as a coach, certainly in college, that, things change quickly. You'll get SMU overnight, Arizona State overnight. Indiana is back again. Texas Tech, Vandy. And now you get these blue bloods where all of a sudden, Penn State or Florida and Florida State, and we'll move on from you. It just, do you get that feeling of, it's survival of the fittest for these coaches trying to hold on to these jobs?
Yeah, Dan, it is. And, you make a great point. And I said this 3 or 4 years ago. I said that the NIL and the transfer portal was going to level out college football. And what that means is it's going to be year to year. The days of Alabama and Georgia and all these super teams being able to just run through people every single year and constantly be in the national title race is over because their depth is gone, Dan. If I'm a quarterback and I know this guy is making, I don't know, $4 or $5 million, and I'm a freshman coming in or I'm a guy in the portal, I'm not going to that school. In the past, I could go to that school and just beat him out because neither of us were making money and the best guy was going to play. Well, now you have situations like last year with DJ Uiagalelei at Florida State where they're paying him a bunch of money and everyone with eyes can see, hey, he's just not playing very well. But guess what? They have to play him because they're paying him so much money. So now you look at the way that everything is going, Dan, and these coaches are on a year-to-year deal where 1 year they're great, the next year they can be terrible because if you pay the wrong guys, you're out of luck. So I look at these blue bloods and I get why they're struggling, but the boosters don't care. And when they're willing to pay 70, 80, 90 million for you not to coach somewhere, that lets you know how different the landscape is. And Dan, I'm just trying to see if I can get one of these head coaching jobs and we can make this happen and I can bring you guys on board and they can just fire us not to work because this is crazy what's going on in college football right now.
You would not want to be a coach today. You would not want this, or do you?
I think I would love to do it. First of all, I love coaching. I've had the opportunity to be in overtime and coach these young athletes in 7-on-7. But to me, it boils down to your head coach can no longer just be a great play caller. They can't just be a guy that went through the rounds and he knows how to do this. You got to be a CEO. It's why Joey McGuire at Texas Tech is such a great head coach. He hires the right guys. Sheil Wood, the defensive coordinator, and Mac Leftwich as offensive coordinator. These guys are innovative. They're young. They know how to call plays and put their guys in position to be successful. But like you look at Florida, for example, I've said this for years now. I think they should hire Tim Tebow. If Tim Tebow goes into any home in Florida, you're telling me that those parents aren't saying, yep, sign me up. I'm coming. You got to put a great staff around him.
But you can't hire somebody that you can't fire, Robert.
They can fire Tim Tebow.
Yeah, I know, but you don't want to do that. It's just like we've seen that, Patrick Ewing at Georgetown, Chris Mullen at St. John's, Clyde Drexler at Houston. You don't want to fire your guy.
Now, Dan, do any of those guys give speeches like Tim Tebow? Do any of those guys motivate like Tim Tebow motivates? I'm not saying Tebow would take the job. I'm great friends with Tim. I don't think he'd take the job. But if I'm Florida, I'm trying to do that because you need that level of exposure now.
Have you asked him about the Florida job?
I have.
And what did he say?
His response is, he's not chasing that. He's not that he's not interested at all. He's just not chasing that. And I understand it. You're the favorite son. We saw that with Frost at Nebraska. You don't want to have to fire your guy. But I'm just talking about the overall thought process of teams in college football today. You got to give these young men a reason to want to go there because they can go to 7 different schools and still make it to the NFL. Before it was, you go to Bama, you're going to the league. You go to Georgia, you're going to the league, and you're going to win a national championship. It's no longer that way.
But you got Andrew Luck, who I think is going to end up coaching Stanford. I mean, he's their general manager. It feels like, as competitive as he is, he's like, I want to get closer to the game. I could see him coaching at Stanford.
Hey, Dan, Andrew's doing it the smart way, right? Stanford's not a great team, and he's not putting those losses on his record.
Not yet. He'll start coaching when they get better.
Roster, and then he's going to coach them when they're better. Hey, they had Bear Bachmeier, the quarterback at BYU.
Oh, I know.
So
that dude he's good. He's not afraid.
He is not afraid. He's not a freshman. 4.0 GPA at Stanford before he transferred out. Extremely smart young man. I've known him for a couple of years now. Fearless, and he showed that in the Holy War. It was pretty impressive to watch.
And number 47.
Yeah, you know what that number is? He played a running back and middle linebacker when he was young. And he said when he switched over to quarterback, he kept the number 47 because it reminded him of his primitive years. That is an interesting quarterback. That's a guy you want to play for.
Great to talk to you again. Thanks for joining us.
Appreciate you, Dan.
That's Robert Griffin Jr. III. He was there for BYU, Utah, and his podcast, Out of Pocket with RG3.